Welcome back to 3 News First Edition. If you're just joining us, I have Matt Manning here, legal analyst and former first assistant DA of Nueces County, and we're talking about police brutality, community relations, especially in the light of these nationally known cases now. So we're going to go back to talking about George Floyd. We talked about there was a video that has surfaced, and I feel like that's what brought to light this situation. Do you think it would have played out any differently if there wasn't a video to show what actually happened?
Absolutely. I think video evidence is incontrovertible. And what I mean is people see it with their own eyes. So at the very least, it spurs a conversation and there's no real interpretation as to whether something happened or didn't happen outside of what you see with your own eyes. So I think that's imperative when you analyze police brutality cases, because as you can imagine, the vast majority don't occur on video clear as day for as long as this one did. So there, you're kind of always grasping at what really happened. We have to kind of piece it together from offense reports and witness statements. This is different because you have a clear video showing exactly what transpired the last Monday and who was involved and exactly how it happened.
So when we talk about police brutality, a lot of people, there's a different view as far as a police officer's duty is to make sure people are safe, and there's a fine line that they have to walk in between protecting others, and they may have to use force to do that. How do we know if it's acceptable for a police officer to use force that may result in somebody's death if they believe that they're protecting themselves or protecting others?
Well, that's a great question. And really, one of the first things everyone needs to know is these cases are customarily analyzed from two viewpoints, from both the criminal viewpoint and the civil viewpoint. So I said that to say, anytime a police brutality instance happens, a prosecutor is reviewing it to see whether the officer actually broke a criminal law. So one of the laws in our penal code. But they're also looking, or not the prosecutor, excuse me, but other attorneys in civil suits would be looking at whether there is civil liability for what happened. So those two standards apply, and they're different insofar as it goes to the civil standard. The question is really whether a reasonable officer in that officer's shoes would have taken the same action. It's excessive where they would not have, and where it's far beyond kind of the bounds of what we think is acceptable conduct. As it goes to the criminal aspect, there's just a question of whether the officer committed a crime, the same way there would be as to whether I committed a crime or you committed a crime under certain circumstances.
Now, I don't know if your social media has blown up with about this same conversation that we're having. Mine sure has. And there's been a lot of, text this number to get, some kind of action, text this number to help out the case. So what way do you think social media has affected the legal action that's taken place? Would there have been arrest if not for people pushing for it?
I don't know whether there would have been arrests, but that's a great question. And what I think it's done, frankly, is just shown a light on not only what happened, but what is happening in response to what happened. And what I mean is, before the 24-hour news cycle, before the ubiquity of cell phones and everything being recorded, you might hear about something and you might hear about how it matriculates through the system, but you didn't necessarily have video of what actually happened, number one, and you didn't have constant pressure on the prosecutors and the police and all the involved parties for resolution. So that's what I think social media has done here, is really shown a light, and frankly, it's put a lot of fire under a lot of people to act a certain way and to be accountable to their community. Because now, if the prosecutor doesn't charge in a certain period of time, or the police chief does not make a statement that's acceptable to people, they have frankly hell to pay, in real time, basically.
Again, we're going to continue this conversation. We're going to start talking about other cases and information that we need to know and what we can do in our own community to make sure that this doesn't happen here. So